They'll look to make it 9 against Norwich City next Saturday. But here this afternoon, it has been a performance, an afternoon to savour at Villa Park. The full-time score, Aston Villa 1, Leicester City 4.
Plenty of reactions come on LCFC Radio as Leicester City, second in the Premier League, 6 clear of third place Manchester City, 9 points clear of fourth place Chelsea, and 14 points clear of fifth place Manchester United, and hunting Liverpool down in first place. 8 points behind them. It's another win for Leicester City. They just keep going on and on and on. Aston Villa 1, Leicester City 4. We're starting to run out of superlatives, but we will try our best to talk through what has been another fantastic afternoon for the Foxes. We'll hear from some of those involved as well. We've got Jerry Taggart staying in position at Villa Park, and in the studio I'm joined by Steve Guppy and Matt Elliott. We'll hear from Steve very shortly, but full-time thoughts, Matt Elliott.
Incredible, isn't it, Lewis? I mean, at a canter as well. They won with miles of room to spare, didn't they? It was just so impressive. I mean, before any Premier League game before, and you never quite know how it's going to go, and every team brings their challenges, don't they? But they've just cruised that. I mean, they let their guard slip a little bit with, on a couple of instances. One, El Ghazi hit the bar, and they got caught short a little bit, as Steve mentioned at half time, with the overloads, etc. And then they pegged the goal back, didn't they, just before the interval. But that aside, very rarely looked flustered at all, and could just hurt Aston Villa at will, couldn't they? Every time they went forward in both halves throughout the game, you thought they were going to score. And that wasn't a million miles off being another Southampton, because they scored 4, could have got 8 or 9 very, very comfortably. Vardy could have had 4 or 5 on his own. And I have to say, Villa were exceptionally poor defensively. I don't know what John Terry is meant to be doing there. He doesn't seem to have had too much effect on the back four, that's for sure. But Leicester, imperious again, and so many people played their part, didn't they? Substitutions came on, didn't affect the rhythm at all. Brilliant performance.
So many people getting in touch. We'll get through as many of your comments as possible. Abel says, an amazing result today. Go on, you Foxes. Carlos says, it's like watching Brazil. Go on, Leicester. Talmo says, excellent. Lorna says, thank you, Ricardo. You've been kicked and shoved all day. Well deserving of the man of the match. Not sure, maybe he got the man of the match on the TV. No, I think Tags gave it to Ian Acho, but maybe on the TV game they might well have given it to him. James says, brilliant Foxes. John says, well done, boys. Dave says, wonderful. Hakan says, fantastic. Soyun Chu. Ben says, fair play to Villa. They wanted to play and not just defend, but they were, of course, unpicked by brilliant Leicester City performance this afternoon. Awesome. Leicester, amazing, says Janine. Keep your messages coming. There's so many coming in. We'll get through as many as possible. Phil says, well done, Leicester. And Ash says, great result. Of course, if you've got any questions about the game for any of the boys, then do get in touch. Steve, how would you sum up that performance?
I think one of the most impressive things for me was that after the Man United result, it would have been a massive shot in the arm to Leicester. I think, wow, if we can win this, we go so clear of Man City and all the rest. But so when it really mattered, I still early in the season, admittedly, but when it really mattered at this point, they turned up. They turned up. Imagine if they hadn't got the result today, drawn a bit, been a really bit of a if only. But this Leicester team are not worried about if onlys. They went out. Okay, once Villa had a little, puffed themselves out a little bit, very similar to Brighton. Once they, just had a little look, raised the game a little bit. Soon enough, Leicester, they just kept coming, and then they couldn't deal with it, just like Brighton couldn't deal with it. And you look, within a minute of the second half starting, Leicester had a 2v2. So we go back, we're talking about the system, that Brendan decided to play, in the first half, and then maybe the problem fors and against, blah, blah, blah. But just shows he was spot on, because the second half, within 1 minute, 2v2, nothing came of it, but you think, this is why he's done that. And sure enough, they kept going, the goals kept coming, and then he had the luxury then of making a change, taking Iheanacho off, and going back to the old, getting the wingers, and they doubling back and stop those overloads. It was an outstanding performance, but it was a performance when it really, really mattered, and that was incredibly impressive.
And Jerry, one thing with this Leicester City team, if they try something, it doesn't work, it doesn't really bother them. They go again. Just looking at the stats, 23 shots today, only 8 of those on target, which might well be something that actually Brendan Rodgers will pull them up on for today. But it doesn't matter that they maybe kept missing opportunities. They just keep going. They're relentless.
Yeah, they've at the beginning of the game, I'm struggling to find the formation, and it became pretty apparent that James Maddison, had acres of room in that number 10 position, and Iheanacho was obviously playing up alongside Jamie. And you could see very early on in the game that Leicester were going to cause problems for Villa, and you felt like it was only a matter of time. And then once the first goal came, then there was a couple of opportunities for the second goal. Then the second goal came, and they didn't take the foot off the gas. Yes, Villa got back into it, but Leicester time and time again, just getting forward, causing absolute mayhem in the Villa backline. And tactically, Brendan Rodgers absolutely spot on yet again.
Just to quickly run through some of the other games that have taken place this afternoon. Newcastle 2, Southampton 1 at St James's Park. Ings gave Southampton the lead, but Shelvey and then a late goal from Fernandes gave Newcastle the win there. Norwich 1, Sheffield United 2. It was Norwich who took the lead with Tetty, but then Stevens and Baldock scored 2 goals within 3 minutes to give Sheffield United the win. So it does change things at the bottom of the table slightly. Watford are rock bottom, then it's Norwich, Southampton drop into the bottom 3, then Aston Villa just above that line. It is, of course, just an incredible Premier League season, but luckily for Leicester, they're worrying about what's happening at the top. Another win, this time by 4 goals to 1. That goal difference is nice and tasty for Leicester, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Everything's looking rosy, isn't it? And they'll be slightly disgruntled and annoyed that they conceded. It took a decent strike and a big deflection to beat Kasper, but you could see that. I felt it, like a sense of disappointment. You're like, they're expecting to have clean sheets. That's a wonderful feeling. And it's good to have that mentality as well. When you do concede, it's almost an affront to your capabilities really as a team, and they were determined not to let it happen again. But they had no need to worry anyway. They've got the firepower there. They say it was 4, could have been 7 or 8, quite conceivably. Harvey Barnes could have had a hat-trick when he came on, and probably should have had a couple. Numerous other opportunities that on another day, if they needed to be that little bit more clinical, perhaps they could have been. But 4 goals away from home, not too bad, is it?
Johnny Evans got one of those goals, and actually we can head back to Villa Park and hear from him now.
It's a really big achievement. I've been playing a long time now in the Premier League. It's very hard to do that. I think the way we've played today, we changed our formation. We played a diamond, 2 strikers, and it worked in the first half. And even if we had been a bit more clinical, we could have been a couple of more goals up. And then obviously to get the goal against just before half time was a bit of a sucker punch, and we had to sort of compose ourselves at half time and got the goal early in the second half, which kind of helped a bit. And then I think from then on we sort of controlled it. Yeah.
Back in the goals yourself, but just tell us about the hard work that goes in on the training pitch to just getting yourself that amount of room that you had.
Yeah, we felt like that was a space that could be exploited.
There we go, Johnny Evans talking after today's game. Really interesting, Matt and Jerry in particular. Actually, Steve, from putting crosses in all your career, to have a player with so much space and being able to see that, that's a dream, isn't it?
Well, it is.
Or a nightmare if you're the opposition's management, I'm sure.
Well, it all came together, didn't it, really? It was a great cross to the far post. Obviously, they'd worked on that, but you have to say that I don't want to keep digging out that Ingles lad who came on instead of Mings, but when you see it again, Matt Taggs, what is he doing? I mean, he's
daydreaming.
He's gambling that they're running to the near post. He takes about 3 steps to the near post, realises no one's with him, and stops and turns round. And then Johnny Evans is completely unmarked. I mean, great header from 8-9 yards, fantastic. But oh my goodness, I mean that as bad as defending as you can possibly get.
Yeah, we were saying here, Tags, that Sunchu and Evans almost looked at each other and said, "Okay, who wants it? Which one of us?"
I concur with Steve has just said. You know, it's take nothing away. It's not an easy header, by the way, because you have to head it. Obviously, it's easy enough to hit the target because you're obviously unchallenged, and he probably has a bit of time to think about it, believe it or not, because he's got so much time and space. So it's not that easy a header. So it's a great finish to put it where he put it, but you've got to say, defensively, you know, Villa all over the show. I mean, seriously, all over the show.
James says, fabulous Foxes, an emphatic victory this afternoon against a really physical side. Villa lucky not to have been down to 9 men. Alison says, excellent performance, Leicester City. Joe says, glad to be wrong about only 1 goal in it. Absolutely nice, convincing win for Leicester. Karen says, well done Foxes. Ivan says, big win again, bring on Norwich. So many messages coming in, a lot about Jamie Vardy, of course. I'm sure we'll be talking about him very soon. And also Gideon says, Leicester, best team ever. Whilst Glenn says, magical display, boys. Keep applying the pressure. Right, one of those who did score this afternoon and was heavily involved and was man of the match for Jerry Taggart was Kelechi Iheanacho, and we can hear from him now.
He's done great, the manager, so he's bring out the best in each and every one of us. So we're happy, me as a player, so I'm happy working under him, and he's done brilliant for me. So he's bring out the best player in me. So I just need to keep my head up, keep going, and keep learning every training and every game.
You said on to the next one pretty quickly. I mean, is that the mentality you need to keep putting pressure on Liverpool? Because it looks like it's going to be you and not Man City.
I think we need to take it one game at a time. We won this one, so we're looking forward to the next game. And we're not bothered about Liverpool or Man City. We just need to keep going and keep winning our games.
Wow, what an improvement. Kelechi Iheanacho, Tags, you called him your man of the match this afternoon.
I wanted to give it to Ricardo, but I couldn't. That would be 3 games on the trot.
But the fact, let's talk about Kelechi Iheanacho though, because you know he found himself out of the team, out of the squad for many occasions, and also dropped by his national team as well. You know, he's still a young player. To be able to bounce back from that shows that the managing of him has been exceptional. Yeah,
I think that's the key statement you've made, is individual management of Kelechi Iheanacho. He was a different player today. I mean, his first touch was, he knew what he was doing when the ball was coming to him. His ball through for Vardy was pinpoint. He's made that near post run. In months gone past, he sort of languid in his movement and his demeanour and his body language. But today, we seen none of that. We seen, an accomplished centre forward who basically, should, as Matt said, should have been more in front at half time, but basically, got Leicester over the line that first half with his play. So that's why I've given man of the match, because that was a Kelechi Iheanacho I've not seen.
He would have been absolutely gutted to come off today, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I felt for him a little bit, really, to be fair. Similar with Dennis Pratt, really, because he must be dying to get 90 minutes under his belt, and I thought he did pretty well as well. Set up Vardy's goal, didn't he, with the assist, and Iheanacho would want to get a full game under his belt, but shows you that how ruthless and professional Brendan is. Although, like Tag say, he's good at the man management side individually, but he also has an eye on what's best for the team in that specific moment and in one particular situation. If he thinks, right, okay, we need to revert back to this and put on some legs, etc., and he'll do so, even if it's at the expense of someone, not their pride, but even their self-interest, really. And you look at the formation change. I didn't question it at half time. I was just I was slightly taken by surprise. I thought it was maybe a little bit of a risk, and why change what's working anyway? But as usual, Brendan proved to be correct, didn't he? He'd seen where Leicester could hurt Villa in particular. Down the middle, 2v2. There's so much width in their back four, Aston Villa. It was actually two centre halves were up against Vardy and Iheanacho, and they had too much for them, didn't they?
Yeah, talking about Iheanacho, lots of people getting in touch regarding his performance. Craig says, Nacho was epic. I hope he can carry this forward. And James says, I'm so pleased to see he's finding his form. He's been working really hard in training. A goal and assist today. Well done, Kelechi. And a well-deserved man of the match on top of that. And lovely little message here. He just got someone who just says, I just simply love it. I think every Leicester City fan feels like that right now, don't they, Steve?
No, quite right. I mean, what an absolute pleasure it must be to play in this team right now. Everyone seems to be on top of their game, and it's all going their way. But just touching on Iheanacho again, you think when he comes, it's not easy for someone when he comes in. The other forward you're with, or is Jamie Vardy. So I think he's come in, and Jamie Vardy is incredible striker, but he had to really get the fans on his side. He had to at least try and match Jamie Vardy's work rate, and clearly at Man City he never had to do any of that. So there's been a period where he's had to go away and think, if I'm ever going to get in this side, I'm going to have to roll my sleeves up here and work harder than maybe I've had to do in probably his whole life. You think coming through, if he came through, I'm pretty sure he came through the Man City Youth Academy and all that. I can't imagine he'd have to work too hard because they win most games. So he's reinvented himself. Full credit to the coaching staff and that to convince him to do that. But he's done that, and fair play to him. Now he's matching the work rate, or trying to match the work rate of Jamie Vardy, and good things are now happening.
And the strength side of things, Matt, from Iheanacho, just being able to hold the ball up, something a side of his game we haven't seen as much.
He's capable of it, yeah. It's just, Jerry said he's sort of lethargic way about him at times, isn't it? He's a little bit uncoordinated, but that happens, when you're not playing on top of your game, and he does seem like one of those players. Centre forwards tend to be, but he was, he's got a physical presence. He looks sharper. I don't know how he does it, to be honest, because he's not playing development games. He's been out of the side, for such a long period of time. But he's he's come in. He looked like he played 10 games this season. The way he was performing, sharp. He was precise. His play. He was bright and alert. He was aware. Intelligent runs as well. A bit of creativity. The time he was on the pitch, he was pretty much full package today.
Let's talk about Jamie Vardy then, the man who has probably kept Kelechi Iheanacho's game time down over the seasons. Vardy is the second player in Premier League history to score in 8 successive games on 2 separate occasions. Ruud van Nistelrooy did it in January 2002 and August 2003. Special player, and we know that, Jerry, but he just keeps going.
Yeah, he's a one-off, isn't he, as far as Leicester are concerned. And he just keeps getting on with it, keeps scoring the goals, gets himself in the right positions. He's improved. His game knowledge has just improved immensely from the first time I've seen him, and I think that's the biggest improvement. That's what will carry him through for the next 2, 3, 4 seasons. Is he's just a very, very clever player, and when you come up against defences like Aston Villa's today, then it's money for old rope for him. It really is, and we just seen that today. He nearly missed the first one, but
he tried his best, didn't he?
He tried his best, but he just has that knack, doesn't he, of knowing where to make his run, and in front of the goal, he's just lethal.
Chrissy's been in touch. Well done, lads. What a great match. We're playing better now than the season we won the title. Fabulous, she says. Well done, boys, making Leicester proud. That comes in from Baljinder. And Jack says, what performance. Liverpool must be quaking in their boots. Eamon says, listening in Perth, Australia. Another great performance, especially away from home. I'm off to bed a happy man. Sleep well, my friend. And Derek says, in Southern California, so worth waking up at 5:30 a.m. to watch this match. Go on, the Foxes. And Jamie says, oh, I missed it. I thought it was a 4:30 kickoff. That's what I was told.
Oh dear.
Unlucky, Jamie, but we'll have some highlights on the way for you very, very soon, so don't worry. In terms of highlights in this game, let's go back to the first goal. It was that Jamie Vardy miss-hit. Tyrone Mings probably shouldn't have been on the pitch, not because he had done anything wrong, but he was clearly injured. Villa decided to keep him on the field, and they paid for it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you've got to make the most of your luck. And Villa's decision, making in that whole episode of pulling hamstring, but no, he has he not. Jamie Vardy must have been looking at it thinking, wow, Christmas has come early. And he made the most of it. Like I say, he made that reverse movement and then piled back into the space where Mings was. Iniacho, great pass. Went round the keeper like he wasn't there. Obviously fluffed his lines a little bit, but then gained his composure, slotted it at the back of the goal. Did we ever really doubt it wasn't going to be anything other than a goal? But he made a little bit tough work of it, but still counted.
Jerry, was Jamie Vardy getting stick from the Villa fans? I know he gave it a bit back, but were they really naive enough to do that before he scored?
Well, it seemed that way. I can't say I was sat here listening intently to what the whole end were singing about Jamie Vardy, or whether or not it was that loud. I didn't really hear a lot, but obviously with his reaction after he scored a goal, they just don't learn, do they? The fans, the opposition fans, do they? You just, every time it's, opposition fans have a pop at him, he seems to pop up with a goal, and you see the reaction. Thank you very much, keep it going.
Yeah, Norwich, get your chance ready for next week. Nenny's been in touch. Can I cross over from Manchester United to Leicester, please? Yeah, come on over, Nenny. No problem at all. Also, in that first half, we had the second goal, which, of course, was Iheanacho. We thought it might have been an own goal at one point, but once again, James Maddison, really intelligent play from him. Crisp pass, which really forced the issue and the error from the defender.
Well, it was really controlled, precise build-up, wasn't it? From start to finish, really. I mean, the move was probably going on for 45 seconds or so. There was an element of keep ball at one stage, but they're always looking, to be adventurous, to look for that killer pass, the one that will break through the lines. And it was a great little combination play. Eventually ended up in the left-hand channel, and Maddison's ventured forward, and he was roaming around, in that relatively free role to great effect. And intelligence as well, didn't rush it when he got there, lifted his head up, saw the run of Iheanacho. It was the right run at the right time, and he released the ball beautifully. And we'll give Iheanacho the benefit of the doubt. It looked like a classy finish, and we'll keep it that way, irrespective of whether it did take a deflection or not. But his run, it was top-class football. It looked simple, but it was so effective.
Yeah, it seems from all the other outlets that Iheanacho's been awarded with it, so absolutely he'll take that, I'm sure. Obviously, 10 goals against for the season, Steve, and the one that they've conceded, they'll be gutted, especially the timing of it right on the stroke of half-time. You never want to concede then, do you? But for Leicester, it's weird when they concede now. You almost feel like, this doesn't happen very often. What are you going to do about that?
I know, it's almost like you're looking, surely it won't count, will it? It feels like that, but it was a great finish, you have to say. I guess Barnes had a chance in the second half, and Tielemans as well. Probably more Tielemans. Very easy in those situations to hit over the bar like they did. But fair play to Grealish. A bit niggly in the game, wasn't he? He's a bit petulant at times, but that was a good finish. He got his bit of luck with the deflection, but the skill and the art was to keep it down, and he did that. So fair play, got himself a goal.
Yeah, Jerry, they did seem to lose their heads quite a bit, Aston Villa, during that game, and that's not going to help them going through this season, especially the position they're in the league.
Yeah, no, absolutely. There was a bit of frustration. I said it's a niggly game, this one, for some reason, and I'm not sure why, but on the flip side of that, at times they couldn't live with Leicester, and that's why that frustration was shining through. They just cannot live with the fitness levels of these lads. It's just quite incredible, and even people like Grealish, McGinn, who are accomplished players, at times, like Grealish on the ball is a class act, there's no doubt about that, but when he's trying to hunt the ball down, when he's trying to, make recovery runs, get back on side, same with McGinn at times, and Douglas Luiz, they just couldn't live with him. It's as simple as that, and that's why you see a lot of frustration with the challenges and things like that.
I think one thing, Tags, is that when Grealish, I was watching, when he's a good player and all the rest of it, but when he lost the ball, absolutely no effort in trying to recover. It almost feels like those days are gone. Do you know, that player who's going to create something. No, there's no free lunches anymore. Mane up at Liverpool, he shows that he's up, he's back. You're not telling me that Grealish is better than him. No. It's a mindset, and then I think that's what goes a long way to why Leicester just steamrolled them. When they lost the ball, didn't get back in. All Leicester players on the front foot, bang.
Oh, it's totally a mindset, and you're spot on. There was shades of Ozil in his play when he lost the ball. There was times when he was trying to do too much. He'd be surrounded by 2 or 3 Leicester players. He'd try and be cheeky and, try and dribble around them. And when he didn't, you could obviously see the frustrating side of his game. And as you say, there was no real attempt, maybe on 1-2 occasions, but not throughout the 90 minutes, for him to make a recovery run and try and get back onside. But again, you've got to put that down to Leicester. They just overran the midfield. They controlled the midfield today, Leicester, big time.
I thought Villa, they were sort of disgruntled and put out by the realisation that Leicester was so much a better team.
I think
they got sulky about it. They couldn't handle it.
They had a bit of joy, Villa, didn't they, in the first half down both flanks.
Yeah.
And there was poor crosses coming. El Ghazi on one side, and there was Target and Grealish on this side. And they had a lot of joy. They got a lot of players getting in the overlap and gotten good crossing positions, and that's what let them down a lot of the time. But in the middle of the park, Leicester just controlled it.
And you also have to say on the flip side about the discipline, Leicester didn't lose theirs despite Villa probably trying to draw them into a couple of personal battles throughout the pitch.
No, you're right. I think it is easier though when you are 4-1 up, has to be said. You've got the cool head, you're just into the game, but I think what the lads are saying spot on. They're just the realisation that Leicester are actually far superior. Must have been an incredibly humbling experience for a lot of these Villa players, and and they showed it in that way where they were just a little bit petulant. I thought Target was lucky not to get sent off. Who knows what the score would have been if that had happened? But they just couldn't deal with what Leicester were bringing.
We've seen Everton, Watford, and now Villa in the last week. 3 clubs that have been struggling, been down the wrong end of the Premier League table. Were Villa the worst of the 3?
Yeah, I think so. Out of those 3 performances, yeah. That's not to say they have or will be over the course of the season, but I think they've got problems, yeah. I mean, Wesley, non-existent. He doesn't even, I don't want to be too harsh, but he looks very awkward on the ball, doesn't he? He doesn't look a natural footballer, and they're not getting enough right type of service for him to thrive on in any way. And even if it is delivered, can he be the one to convert opportunities? I'm not so sure, but we spoke about the lack of firepower before the game, and that is a problem for them, but they've got problems both ends of the pitch, haven't they? And a lot said about Grealish and McGinn, and McGinn has a bit of a go, but from what I've seen today, that seemed a bit overpumped. Leicester, as we've just spoken about, dominated the midfield area, so that's where the hub of their team is meant to be, and it wasn't good enough today to challenge Leicester. And then defensively, so open. I mean, I don't know. Is it intentional, or is it players just not doing the jobs they're meant to, or are they intentionally trying to play that way and take a bit of a gamble? If so, it's a gamble that's going to backfire seriously on them. They got big problems, I think, on that evidence.
Do you not think that they're 2 centre-halves? I mean, once Mings went off, in hindsight, the game was done. I think he was the one person that could maybe hold it together.
Well, like you said, it seems as if they're hesitant to bring Engels on. Because, it's worth having Tyrone on with a pulled hamstring.
Well, no, exactly. You wonder what the future is. Clearly, if Engels is now going to have to play, I mean, he is. Listen, I'm sure he's a very dominant in the air. I'm sure he's got some attributes, but he is very slow. He showed today against Vardy makes a lot of people look slow, but Premiership centre half, you just wonder if you think they may have to go with a back 5 or something. I mean, because they're just those 2 centre halves are just not good enough. The
fullbacks were nowhere to be seen half the time, and overexposed 2 centre halves, and no, I mean, I'd be worried. That's what I'm saying. I'm not being particularly personally critical to John Terry, but he's their assistant coach. If they perform like that when they've got John Terry looking after them, what would it be like on different occasions?
Right then, we're going to head back to the tunnel at Villa Park where we can hear from Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, it was a really good performance, and we changed tactics today. Went into a diamond for the first time, and I think you can see from the work we've done on the training field, we've took it straight into the game and dominated.
You certainly can. You are so full of confidence. Can't stop scoring goals, Jamie. How do you feel?
No, I'm obviously over the moon, but first and foremost, it's all about getting the points for Leicester and the performance from every one of the boys. Everyone put 100% in and come out deserved winners.
Well, you certainly are getting those points, and you are closing the gap at the top. Could it be the title race?
No, we're just taking, like I said, each game as they come. It's a long old season, so we'll just keep going into each game, picking up as many points as we can, and obviously seeing where we finish at the end of the season, and that gives us something to progress on.
Thanks, Jamie. And finally, what's the atmosphere like in camp? Everyone happy?
Yeah, I mean, if you'd have heard it a minute ago, they were banging on the skip, so it was like a nightclub going off. But everyone's obviously over the moon. We wanted to come here and put a performance in and get the 3 points, and that's exactly what we've done.
Jamie Vardy talking after this afternoon's 4-1 win against Aston Villa. Nicky says, nice work, boys. Andrea says, great win today. Onwards and upwards, Liverpool, we are coming for you. And Wayne says, what can you say about a number one team that is your home team? It's absolutely brilliant. Right, final thoughts of Jerry Taggart at Villa Park. Jerry, it just keeps going.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a great feeling at the minute to be part of it all, isn't it? And, what pre-match seemed a really difficult game was, sort of blown out in the insignificance, really. And the bandwagon keeps rolling on. And you've got to say, at the minute, I can't see where they're going to get beat. I know Man City's going away as a difficult game, but, Man City, they're faltering, aren't they? So I just can't see it at the minute. So it's happy days all round.
Former Fox Jerry Taggart, thank you for your time and safe trip back from Villa Park.
Thank you and good evening.
See you, Geraldo.
See you, Tags.
There we go. Jerry Taggart, of course, part of the LCFC Radio and TV team, and you can always keep up to date with everything that Leicester City has to offer via LCFC TV and Radio, including the Informed Development Squad. They're back in Premier League 2 Division 1 action. They play Everton at Holmes Park on Monday, live and for free on LCFC TV. It's a 7 o'clock kickoff. Right, back to today's action, though. If you are just joining us, like our friend who said, I had the wrong kickoff time. Don't worry. Here's what happened at Villa Park this afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon everyone. Welcome along to Villa Park. It's a relatively short journey from the East Midlands across to the West Midlands in the Premier League this afternoon as Aston Villa host Leicester City. High ball here towards Wesley, who can't make it stick. He hasn't made it stick himself really at Aston Villa so far. Maddison carrying the ball forward into Iheanacho in the right channel. Kelechi Iheanacho, edge of the penalty area, on his left foot he talks. Maddison, chance! Oh, it's a great block. Really good block as well it was by Ezri Konsa. Back in the Holt end here at Villa Park, the traditional home end of the stadium. And Maddison takes his free kick instead, bends it in right-footed, long and deep, towards the far post, touched on! Oh, what a chance that was there for Johnny Evans. Just a few yards out, those in the away end thought he was going to find the net. They'd almost started celebrating, but in the end it's into the arms of the goalkeeper. But that could and arguably should have been 1-0.
Well, we're in a really bad position to see that, but it's so intuitive it gets it back. And Johnny misses it somehow. Meanwhile, here's Grealish, edge of the penalty area, the reverse here for Target. His low ball into the middle, it's put off the bar by El Ghazi, who misses from point-blank range. A real let-off there for Brendan Rodgers' side, who will now try and break out themselves. This one really developing into a great game. Crap forward now into Iheanacho, who will try and run at Mings. That would be the thing to do. Slides it forward, Vardy, in on goal, Jamie Vardy, round the goalkeeper, it's got to be, he's missed it, still Vardy, goal! Leicester City have the lead, and it just had to be, didn't it? Jamie Vardy again. Still Shabba Suyuncu. Out to the left for Chilwell. Anxiety growing among these Villa fans. Cross from the left, low, draws it in, post in for 2-0. It's touched in by Kelechi Iheanacho. 2 in 3 games for the forward, and Leicester have that second goal they craved. McGinn stepping up to it now, bends it high into the box towards Engels, who nods it back across. Leicester trying to clear it away. El Mohammadi back in again. El Ghazi in there. Ricardo gets his head to the ball. Still half a chance. Grealish drives it in, deflected. Aston Villa have a way back in this game. Grealish has rifled it in, and in the second minute of added time, it is now Aston Villa 1, Leicester City 2. Maddison taking this corner from the left for Leicester, clips it high and long towards Evans at the far post. His header, it's in for 3-1. Johnny Evans, what a header! That is a quite remarkable goal. Simple in its creation, but the execution was bang on the money.
And just a couple of minutes after Villa got themselves back into this one, Leicester's 2-goal lead is restored. Given away by Trezeguet. Indeed, looking for that ball out towards Vardy, who latches onto it down the left-hand side. Vardy's into the penalty area. Jamie Vardy places square. Maddison! Oh, he's put it past the post. Everyone was waiting for the net to bulge there from James Maddison. Set himself beautifully, took it round the defender, opened up his body, but has curled it just wide of Tom Heaton's left-hand post. All the ball over the top of Jamie Vardy. He's onside. Jamie Vardy through on goal. Vardy! That will seal it. Jamie Vardy in dreamland for Leicester City again. There is no stopping this man. There is no stopping Leicester City. They have a 4th goal at Villa Park and the home end is emptying. Aston Villa 1, Leicester City 4.
Your place for all the big moments. You're listening to Matchday Live on LCFC Radio.
What a win for Leicester City. 8 wins in a row, 2nd in the Premier League. They are 6 clear of Manchester City in 3rd, 9 clear of Chelsea in 4th, and 14 clear of Manchester United in 5th. We do just keep saying, no, don't talk about anything yet. 16 games into the season now, Steve.
Well, it's amazing, absolutely amazing. They just keep on winning, and the games just keep on coming, and they keep on winning. And when they get the moments, they punish teams, and the results are not only impressive, the performances are as well. And that's what happens when you keep grinding out result after result. Gaps start appearing with other teams who can't keep up with the pace. Like I say, it's only an exceptional Liverpool team at the moment that's stopping Leicester from topping the table.
We've always pinpointed those games coming up in December. Obviously, Man City just before Christmas, Liverpool on Boxing Day. Could be absolutely huge games again, but actually for Leicester City to be in this kind of position and being able to go into that with a little bit of breathing space just takes a bit more pressure off of them.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's madness, really, isn't it? The level that Leicester City are competing at. It's one thing. We know they've won the title 3 years ago, and we know the situation around that. But there weren't 2 teams as good as Man City and Liverpool around then. Tottenham were obviously decent. Man City were decent. They weren't the level they're at now. Liverpool were nowhere near that. Arsenal ended up coming 2nd, didn't they? There was a mediocrity about it to an extent. Amazing achievement that it was, by 10 points, just to remind people if they needed it. So, that was incredible, unbelievable, and all those different words. But now they're operating at a different level, football-wise. It was hugely impressive, the Premier League winning campaign, for lots of reasons. Individuals stood out as well as a team, togetherness and willingness, to see it through. But the standard of football now that they're playing at, you have to say, I know it's only relatively short term thus far, but it's the quality. What you're seeing week in, week out, different ways of playing. And I'm watching them thinking, I know they've got their own inimitable style, Leicester, but you look at it and think, well, would Man City have dealt with that game like that? Would they have dismissed it? Yeah, probably with Liverpool. But they're on a par with that. It's not just the results, it's the performances and the manner of how they're playing. There literally is. They've jumped up a couple of levels. Steve was saying we're watching a game. Leicester have gone up to another level. They've gone beyond that. They've gone up to the very elite level, genuinely, as things stand.
I think as well is that when Leicester won the league, it was almost
and there's more to come.
It was a wake-up call for the other so-called bigger teams. Look, Man City, they didn't. Pep Guardiola was still manager when Leicester won the league. He went out and spent absolute 50 million on fullbacks, and Liverpool went out and spent absolute fortunes in the last couple of seasons. It almost was a wake-up call to the rest. Well, hold on a minute, we've relaxed a bit too much here now, and so it becomes harder. So, and now Leicester, 3 years on, now Leicester are once again laying a marker down to everyone. Now Man City now be thinking, well, what we got to do now? Because we're 6 points off it. Listen, it's still a long way to go, of course, but is another wake-up call to them. Is their squad good enough? Like I say, it's just Liverpool is probably, how good they are. They went out and spent money. in many ways, it was a reflection of Liverpool. I mean, Leicester winning the league 3 seasons ago.
Yeah, John's been in touch. John's actually a Liverpool fan. He says, great performance, always a threat on the break. Rodgers doing a great job, playing lovely football. Looking forward to playing you on Boxing Day. Come on the pool. Good to have you with us, John. We're obviously really looking forward to Boxing Day as well. For Leicester, though, just got to keep going as they do. They just take one game at a time.
Yeah, I mean, for selfish reasons, you want Leicester to stay up the top of the league, don't you? But, and do as well as possible. And who knows? But I mean, generally, I think the football in public want Leicester to stay in contention, don't they? Because say today, if it had gone wrong today, and I thought it was going to be a tougher game than it was, if it had gone wrong, would it be 11 points behind Liverpool? Are they catching Liverpool there? Well, that means that Liverpool would have to lose around 6-7 games for the rest of the season. Probably not happening. Well, it's not happening. It would have been effectively tight over. Leicester playing under that pressure, even though people don't expect them to keep churning out these results for the rest of the season. But if they're going to make any sort of contest of it, they've got to win every game pretty much, haven't they? And turn Liverpool over on Boxing Day. Hell of an ask, but the way they're going, they might make it interesting at least up until Boxing Day.
Yeah, well, we'll look ahead to some of the fixtures that are coming up for Leicester City. But right now, we can head back to Villa Park, where Dan Bates is in conversation with Brendan Rodgers.
Brendan, that's a club record broken, 8 wins in a row in the top flight for the first time. How good was that today, and how good is it to break that record?
Well, it feels great. A real historical performance by the team, and to play that well, to mark that was obviously very, very pleasing. And I thought we were outstanding from the first whistle. We could have had more goals, a bit cleaner on the passing, and obviously Tom makes some great saves in goal. But overall, a brilliant team performance and a great win for us.
We've talked a lot about the different ways that Leicester City are winning games this season, and that was another evidence of that today, wasn't it?
Yeah, 4 different types of goal. Well, of the 4 goals, we had 2 counter-attack. The second one was long period with the ball, and obviously one from a set piece. So it was, an outstanding win.
That set piece as well, Johnny Evans, a fantastic header. Was that something you've been working on in training?
Yeah. Well, Chris does our attacking set pieces, so he looks in detail at those and is always creative and inventive with those, and that was one that he'd looked at in terms of trying to get Johnny free out the back, and of course he makes a great header, and it was a very good goal, especially early on in the second half. We'd conceded just before half time from a second phase corner, which disappointed us. However, I felt in the first half we'd still played really well. It was just a case of keeping going, and I thought we did that.
We saw Kelechi Iheanacho's impact a week ago with an assist and a goal from the bench. He started today, an assist and a goal again. How good is it that all the squad are contributing at the moment?
Yeah, but we've said all along it really is a squad game, and he's a player that's been absolutely first class. Hasn't played so much, but in terms of his training and when he has been brought in, he's really affected the game. So I'm absolutely delighted for him, because his confidence now is starting to come through. And it's not easy, I've always said, playing behind Jamie, but you can see you can put him up there, and in the shape that we played, it worked really well for us.
Just finally, another couple of goals for Jamie Vardy. That's 8 Premier League games in a row he's scored in now, and 2 different goals again today.
Yeah, it was a great pass by Kells to put him in. He'd done his best to miss it, but was alert enough to then go and finish it off with great composure. And then on the second one, he's away from goal and away in on goal. And there's no doubt, I think when he goes in as a manager, you have so much confidence in him that he's going to finish, and it was a great finish.
LCFC Radio's Dan Bates talking to Brendan Rodgers after this afternoon's 4-1 win for Leicester City at Aston Villa. Elsewhere, it was Newcastle 2, Southampton 1, Norwich 1, Sheffield United 2, and the late game of Brighton against Wolverhampton Wanderers is 0-0 after 5 minutes. And in the Scottish League Cup, it's Rangers 0, Celtic 1, just over 10 minutes to go there. Julien with the goal for Celtic. They also had Frimpong sent off 3 minutes later, and Morelos loss, missing a penalty for Rangers. So a quiet Old Firm derby as per usual. We'll keep you up to date with that. As we go through today's game, you met with Brendan Rodgers the other day on the show, of course. How was it in terms of how he feels like atmosphere-wise? And he just seems so relaxed every time we hear him after a game. Obviously, when you're winning, you're going to be more relaxed. But he just seems to be taking everything in his stride and just taking every challenge as it comes, whether it's a personal one or the team as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, the way it's going at the moment, it's totally going to plan, isn't it? It's as if he's mapping everything out and he's dictating what is going to happen. You know, he's preempting situations and.
But it sounds like when Steve went to the training ground, that's what he does do. He
exactly.
does literally map things out.
Well, he said the other day, didn't he? He makes the players aware of different eventualities, situations, and ways that they might go, depending on how the game's materialising. But yeah, when it's all going swimmingly well, that's how it feels. It's almost like what he says is what's going to happen. Yeah, he's got that much power and influence at the moment, but he does have that self-assured way, and he tries to be as detailed as possible in his preparation in all aspects of the game. And if you do that, you give yourself a better chance of being in control of what is going to occur. It doesn't always turn out that way, but as we all know, but at the moment it's just. There's just positivity oozing out of everybody involved, isn't there? They're all playing in roles that suit them. They're all aware of how Brendan wants their approach to be collectively and individually. They just bring them with confidence. And football looks easy. It looks easy for them, doesn't it? You feel like they're not even playing at full stretch, really. They're just popping the ball around at will, really. And I got the feeling today, like, if they really needed to win that game, 8-0, they could well have. They were that superior. And very rarely does football end up like that. It's normally a scrap and hard work and commitment and effort and a little bit of quality on top. But Leicester are just cruising through.
Yeah, absolutely. And they do keep cruising. But as you said,
with a lot of hard work.
Hard work. And actually trying different things all the time. Do you think the formation that was a bit different today is something that Brendan will be happy with overall? Or do you think against a stronger team, there could have been a couple of little holes and bits to improve on?
Yeah, it was always, the opposition are always going to have chances. It just, in the first half, there's just 4 or 5 little overloads out wide, which Villa didn't make enough of. Hitting the first man, foot crosses were poor. But, you could argue that Leicester defensively, their defensive shape, despite the overload, meant that they were quite comfortable with it all. But I think, in general, Leicester looked quite comfortable and Villa didn't really trouble them too much apart from those little moments. So
well, I think he looked at that system, Gups, and he thinks where the benefits outweigh the negatives, really, and that, and thought a little bit, not of a gamble. He thought, okay, over the scale of the game, I'll back our quality to come out on top.
Well, I think we spoke about that before, and he wanted to play 2 up front, and he played 2 up front. You could go 4-4-2, but then you got an overload in the middle of the park in the key area. And teams more and more in this day and age are reluctant to do that. Everyone wants 3 in midfield. So to do that, a diamond is an ideal way of doing it. Okay, you miss out wide, but Leicester showed today that. That didn't really matter, did they? Sometimes you worry about the width not being there. Teams' back fours can keep it nice and tight. That wasn't the case today. As Matt spoke of, Villa was so stretched at the back, and when you think of the chances that Leicester had, Sioncho's, for the free kicks from Maddison today were outstanding, I have to say. But that one that hit the keeper in the face, Barnes had a couple of chances. It really was, and you have to say that system, especially against maybe the lesser teams like Norwich next week as well. You go into a game with 2 up front, it's going to cause teams a lot of problems.
Yeah, David says Leicester weren't comfortable today. They were utterly dominant. Andrew says, had to listen in the car on the way back from Peterborough. Congratulations to the Foxes. Andrew says, what a team we have. And Jason says, amazing Foxes. If we don't win the league this year, I think we will next. We have an amazing squad and a manager that's technical and a great man manager too. Gets the best out of our players. We've been talking about not getting ahead of ourselves too much. Jason is already in next season.
Yeah, it's a fair comment though. Who's going to argue against that, really? I mean, not necessarily winning the league next year, but the comments about the manager and how things are going. But you say, going back to the point Steve was making there with the possibilities, it's something he toyed with in pre-season, didn't work particularly well, I didn't think, but he's had the courage and backed his players to go and implement it, or try it at least in a Premier League game, and came up trumps, didn't he? I think the thing that was evident as well, Aston Villa's back four stroke centre halves weren't used to playing against two up front. Very rarely does it happen, and it was almost alien to them. They weren't quite sure what to do. Like, hang on a minute, this isn't meant to happen. You may well see Leicester applying that even at home next week against Norwich.
Yeah, Dan's been in touch saying Nigel Pearson can do us a favour next weekend. Liverpool against Watford. That's a nice baptism of fire, isn't it?
Picked his time there, hasn't he, Nigel?
In terms of Leicester, though, it is Norwich next for them. Saturday, 3 o'clock kickoff, which would be a nice novelty at the moment. Of course, not many of those floating around, but home game, Leicester at King Power Stadium against a struggling team. To take 4 out of 4 wins from the games that have just been, that would be phenomenal, wouldn't it?
It would, but it wouldn't be that much of a surprise. I mean, and Leicester are very good at it, in a mental approach, taking, each game in isolation. You look at it, 8 games on the trot. No one can predict, even the best teams in the land cannot predict that they're going to win those games. But Leicester have achieved that, incredible. But it's because they look at it and go, well, why can't we win that? Yeah, but we've won 5 before. Our luck's got to run out sometimes. Why? It hasn't. You go out there, strut your stuff, apply yourself like you can do, and they have done, and they've got the rewards. And then the next game, they could focus like they're starting afresh on a run again. Okay, let's go from here now. Then we've done 8. Right, let's go start again. Let's start another run.
Yeah.
Rather than being
marker points.
Yeah, or rather than being bit casual, well, we've got 8, that's great, isn't it? And if we did lose 1, it's not the end of the world. No, these lot are ruthless, and it emanates from the manager at the top.
Yeah, but psychologically, when you get to that Norwich game, that will be the halfway stage of December for that bunch of 8 games, won't it? You'll be like, okay, we've gone through 4 of those already, done and dusted.
I guarantee what Brendan will be doing this week is that when you look at how Norwich play, very similar to Brighton, all week, rather than we've got to get 9 out and next, win at all costs. He'll be thinking, right, we are going to work this week in training on pressing, high press, try and win the ball back in Norwich's half, just like they did against Brighton to such great effect. So the mindset will be on that. Listen, I could be wrong, but I think that's how we do it. We just say press, rather than we've got to keep up with Liverpool, this, that, and the other. Let's concentrate on how we're going to beat Norwich. Just break it down. If we get in their faces, really close them down. I mean, he made a big point when I was there last week about there's closing down and there's closing down. If you're touch tight to someone, then you are closing down. 2-3 yards off, not the same. And that's something that he's been drilling into these Leicester players this season. And I'm sure next week that will be the key focal point.
Big week of rest and recovery for Leicester as well, because this is kind of the longest break they're then going to have when they hit games where it's 4 days later, 3 days later, and in one case at the end of the month, just 2 days to recover. So really important to make sure everyone gets through a good week's training, but also making sure fitness-wise, if they're given the rest they need to.
Yeah, exactly. I think Brendan and his staff obviously know better than us how to apply the training techniques, but Leicester, for whatever reason, are fitter than the average team as well. They can see it out. There weren't really any signs of fatigue today, and when you're winning, you've got that extra spring in your step anyway, but they just not pulverised him, they just keep going. You've used the word relentless tonight, and that applies week in, week out, doesn't it? You play Leicester, you have to be up for it for 95 plus minutes, because they're going to keep coming at whatever stage of the game. They don't flag, they don't tire. They just keep on at you, and they can dictate the tempo of the game. And I'm really looking forward to the Man City and Liverpool games, because hopefully fatigue for either side doesn't make it a scrappy affair, but go and pit themselves against the elite. Are they genuinely there? I believe they are at that level now, more so than they even were against Liverpool earlier in the season. I think they were still a little touch unsure of themselves against Man U, even not quite that that confidence, that strut about their play. But now, wherever it is, 10 games further down the line, they've run the ridiculous run that they've had. The confidence is there and the assurance, and I think they can really genuinely fight on an even keel now against those big sides.
Yeah, and just looking at the Man City games, they've got a Champions League game in the week before, Arsenal away next week. I know Arsenal not going great guns, but that's still going to be a grudge match because it always is. Then they got the League Cup quarter-final, just like Leicester, on the same night. They're playing at Oxford, and then it's, of course, that Leicester game. So they have got more games to fit into that space of time. But I guess if you're looking at the Liverpool side of things, they've still got the Champions League. They got Watford, then they got Villa, then they've got this Club World Cup they got going to in Qatar as well. By the time they come to Leicester on Boxing Day, they would have flown around the world, half their squad, the majority of their squad as well. And it's just where your head's at, isn't it? And being able to just have that plan in place.
And that's how things happen when Leicester have, they forced this run, with great play and energy. Just a couple of points is that I spoke before the game about maybe Jack Grealish being a nice fit if Maddison ever went, just for something to talk about really. But you look at Jack Grealish today, quality, absolutely. Could he play in this Leicester City team? Maybe. But if he didn't track back like he did today in this Leicester City team, he'd end up on the bench. There's no free lunches in this Leicester team. Everyone is working hard. That's why they look fitter than everyone else, because everyone is giving it maximum effort. And it's lovely to see.
Similar intensity in training as well, Cups, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The intensity's there, and the whole point when I was just saying about the pressing, that's. They're really, really into it. There's pressing and there's pressing. Touch tight. You have to get just extra couple of yards, that little extra bit of intensity, and that's what he's squeezing all the time out of the players. That little bit extra, the 1% here, 1% there. And after a period of time, these percentages add up, and we're seeing it.
We mentioned about having seen Everton, Watford, and of course Villa today, seeing Norwich next week. Is this going to be the most open the Premier League from kind of mid-table downwards has ever been? Because it just seems that they're all so interchangeable.
Well, you at the moment you would say so, because there's such a gap at the top. There's got to be a condensement. Is that a word?
Yeah, we'll have it
somewhere in the league, hasn't there? The results are going to sort of level themselves out, aren't they? But
after your way in, Rooney, you can do whatever you want, mate.
I think you'll find condensement's not in there.
Great play on words.
We can try, can't we? Yeah. Try and bluff our way through. But yeah, things do sort of map themselves out, don't they? I mean, I remember last year everyone saying, it's going to be an unbelievable scrap of relegation. But, with about, 10, 12 games or so ago, it was relatively clear that I think it was 3 out of 4. The gaps appear, don't they? And I think there's certain teams that are going to prove themselves, have a bit too much. Like everyone's panicking about Everton at the moment. It doesn't look good for them, but I think over the course, their squad's not going to threaten for Europe, and I never thought they really would, despite what people were claiming. But they're not going down. There are a few teams that, I think having a bit of a bad run, etc. But it is tight in there, and I don't know. You wonder what a lot of them are playing for, really. What is their target? Is their target to try and be like Leicester, go and develop? Are they going to actually back themselves financially, really go for the push? Obviously, not everyone can make it, but I don't know. I've got mixed views on the quality of the Premier League in general. To be honest, I don't think it's quite as high as it's trumped up to be.
Well, we can't deny that Leicester City have been pretty quality. Your final
Leicester
summings
aside,
up generally. How would you, in a nutshell, describe how Leicester were today?
Outstanding when it really mattered after the weekend, when Man United did them a favour in many ways. They stepped up and produced a performance that's really probably got the whole country talking about.
Yeah, I thought they were efficient, weren't they? They were ruthless, intelligent performances. They're running the game, they're dictating the pace of the game. It's a sign of a really, really good side. They're not playing just one way and it's working, it's firing. They can be adaptable, they're flexible, and they've got quality running throughout the side. Great stuff.
Well, gents, thank you for your time, and thank you for listening to LCFC Radio as Leicester City win again. The Foxes were absolutely foursome. See you soon.
Finds it for Vardy, in on goal, Jamie Vardy, round the goalkeeper, it's got to be, he's missed it, still Vardy, goal! Cross on the left, low towards an in-post, in for 2-0! It's touched in by Kelechi Iheanacho. High and long towards Evans in the far post, his header, it's in for 3-1! Johnny Evans, what a header! Jamie Vardy through on goal, Vardy!
For more in-depth analysis, reaction and extended highlights, head to lcfc.com.